Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today I am going to be looking back at last year's Goodreads Choice Awards 2021 and seeing which books I've read from the various categories and whether I agree with where they were in the rankings. So the Goodreads Choice Awards, if you are unaware, is a sort of readers voted awards for books across multiple categories. There are some problems with it, you know, the fact that most people haven't read all of the books that are listed, nominated, and some of the books have been out for a year and some of them have been out for a week and they all just get bundled in together. So there are some issues with the way that it is presented, but it's just a bit of fun and it's quite often books that receive a lot of hype and you can sort of see where they are in the listings, and I have discovered some really great books from reading books that have been nominated. They give you very little time between announcing the books that are nominated and then voting and choosing the winner. So I sort of take it as a year-long project to try and tick off as many as I can. I'm going to be honest, I haven't done great this year, but to see whether I agreed or not. So that is what this video is about, and let's get into the categories. So the first category that I've read some books from is the fiction category. And I have read 3 books from this. I have read The Paper Palace by Miranda, Cowley, Detransition Baby by Torrey and The Sentence by Louise, Erdrich. And they came up on the rankings for this category in that order. So The Paper Palace was voted 5th, Detransition Baby was voted 8th, and The Sentence was voted 16th. And I disagree with that order. For me, Detransition Baby should have come above The Paper Palace. So my order would have been Detransition Baby, The Paper Palace, and then The Sentence. I didn't get on great with The Sentence, even though it was nominated for the Women's Prize and got to the shortlist. It wasn't really my jam, but I did really love the other 2, Detransition Baby in particular, which I did do a solo review for earlier in the year. The next category is mystery thriller, and I've only read one from there. I read The Push by Audrain, is that her name? So I can't really comment one way or the other. It was in 4th position. I thought it was fine. Mystery thrillers aren't really my jam, so I don't really feel like I have an opinion in this category. Then we have historical fiction, and I had read 4 from here. So in the listings, the book voted 5th was The Lincoln Highway, and then 11th, The Prophets, which I did DNF. 13th was the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton, and then 15th was The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. Now, if you followed my channel for a while, you're going to know that having The Great Circle in 15th place is not how I would have ranked it. So obviously The Great Circle was number 1 for me, Lincoln Highway 2nd, so I'm quite glad that that scored quite highly. Also, the other thing to mention about the Goodreads Choice Awards is there's no knowing if people have actually read these books or if they're just picking books by authors that they like. So just, you know, take all of these rankings with a pinch of salt, apart from mine, which are obviously spot on. 3rd place, I would go for the final revival of Opal and Nev, which in my opinion was just not as good version of Daisy Jones and the Six, and then The Prophets in last because I DNF'd it. I didn't really like it. Fantasy, I've only read 2 from this. The problem that I have with the fantasy category is that most of them are like continuations of series. So if you know me, firstly, I'm awful at keeping up with series, and secondly, I just can't keep across that amount of different fantasy series. So anyway, the 2 that I've read are both standalones, and that was Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune, which was voted 2nd, and Ariadne, which was voted 5th. And I really liked both of those books, but I would have ranked Ariadne first and then Under the Whispering Door. The problem for me with Under the Whispering Door was it had a lot to live up to after The House on the Cerulean Sea, which I really, really loved. And it was good. It still had all the heartwarming feels, but it wasn't as good. So then in my mind, it was a little bit of a disappointment. So Ariadne first, which is a Greek myth retelling. Next category is romance. Haven't read any from that, are we surprised? Then we have sci-fi, and again I've read 2 from here. I read Project Hail Mary, which was voted 1st, and A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky, which was voted 10th. And I would actually switch those two around, but I loved both of these books. But for me, A Psalm for the Wild Built would come first, basically because it's Becky Chambers and everything she writes is a delight. Then I didn't read any in the horror category or the humour category, and so that takes us on to non-fiction. One of my challenges that I set myself at the end of 21 for 2022 was to read all 20 books in this category. It is now as I film, the 23rd of October, and I have read 5 and don't really have any plans to read the other 15. So this is a goal that will not continue into next year because it's just not achievable for me. But the 5 that I read the one in first position, the Anthropocene reviewed by John Green. I've read the book in second position, The Comfort Book by Matt Haig, Cultish by Amanda Morell, which was in 4th, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain by George Saunders, which was 13th, and Under a White Sky, which came in 20th. And I disagree with all of those rankings, except from the number 1. So I would have voted The Anthropocene reviewed as my number 1 out of those 5. It was so good, it was funny, it was heartbreaking, it was educational, it was a delight. Read it now. But then second place would have been A Swim in the Pond in the Rain for me, which was in 13th, and then Under a White Sky, which came last. Outrageous. But another point on this award, so Under a White Sky didn't come out in the UK until April, and obviously this was voted for in November last year, so basically if you're not American, half of these books probably aren't even released when when this prize is when these awards are nominated for and voted for. So anyway, Under a White Sky would have been my 3rd position, and then Cultish, and then The Comfort Book would have come way at the bottom because I really despised that book. If you saw my September wrap up, you'll see I was rather salty and cynical about the whole thing. So yeah, so basically I agreed with number 1 and the rest of them would all change. Didn't read any memoir or autobiography. From history and biography, I'd read 2, so Empire of Pain, which was in at number 1, and Facing the Mountain, which was in 18th position, and I would agree with that. I really liked Empire of Pain, so that would be my first, and Facing the Mountain I thought was meh, so yeah, that would have been my second choice. Then I didn't read anything for graphic novels and comics or poetry. Then we get on to best debut novel, and I've actually read 6 from this category, so debut seems to be maybe I should just try and read the debuts next year because I tend to gravitate towards them anyway. That is a discussion for another day, Gemma. So in 4th position, so the top one that I've read was The Push, which was obviously also nominated in a different category. Actually all of these have been, except from one, has been nominated in a different category. So in 7th position was The Paper Palace, 10th Detransition Baby, 13th The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, 14th The Prophets, and 18th was Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson. So again, I pretty much disagree with all of these rankings. My number 1, without a shadow of a doubt, is Detransition Baby by Torrey Peters. That book, honestly, why are people not raving about that more? Why is it always in the middle? It shouldn't be in the middle, it should be at the top. Number 2, Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, which was obviously at the bottom of this pile, and I think this may be because it was released in the UK before it was released in the States, because Nelson is a British author, so perhaps a lot of people hadn't read it, but they should because it was fabulous. And then my next would be The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. Such a great book, a complete page turner. Then The Push, then The Final Revival of Opal and Nev, and then obviously my DNF, The Prophets, at the bottom. And then that's it, because I haven't read any YA fiction. I did read one YA fantasy, and that was Law. I can't remember the name of the author now. Nope, it's gone, but there'll be a picture. And I really despised it, so it came in 3rd position. Whatever. And I hadn't read any middle grade or children's that were released last year. So in conclusion, I very rarely agree with the rankings of the Goodreads Choice Awards, but as I said, I still think it's fun to have a chance to vote as a viewer, as a reader, and it's always interesting to see the books that are on there. Quite often they're miscategorised as well, just so you're aware. So it is an imperfect system, but it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of fun, and yeah, hopefully the 2022 nominations will be out soonish. They're a bit rubbish at letting you know when things are going to happen, so I'm expecting just to pop up randomly at some point in November, and at that point I will probably do a video on the books that have been nominated in the 2022 awards. And yeah, that's it for now. I will leave my review of Detransition Baby here in case you are interested, and I will see you very soon with another one. Bye guys.